Going live, yeah. Okay. That page. Okay. I'm gonna post this on the Hackduke. Wrong one. Facebook. Anyone who wants to join in. Intro to. Come on. Do. Scroll faster. Join us live if you can't make it in person. Oh. Lol. Okay. Wow, everybody's sitting back there. Oh, that's because the things are there. Okay, cool. It's like, wow, we don't like smell or anything.
I smell.
Okay, just kidding. He smells. So.
It's hot today.
Excessive BO. Let's. I don't think so. Do you want the microphone? That's true. Maybe.
Oh, they're TVs. That's crazy.
They're what the fuck? Can
you guys see?
Can you guys see what happened? Whoa! Holy shit! Hi. Okay. That is so cool. I didn't know this classroom was so well utilized. Okay. Intro to blah. Index.html. Cool. All right.
It's like a really bad classroom last year.
Did it?
Like,
maybe it like improved or something.
They renovated it.
They probably renovated it. Okay. Stop sharing. Yes, I get it. Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's like, huh? Oh yeah, there's a PowerPoint. My drive. Oh yeah, that's a better way of doing that. There we go. Yeah. Okay, this looks good.
Yeah.
Wow, you made it like not aligned. My inner designer senses are like suffering right now. I'm currently like writhing in pain.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do.
Okay. All right, neat.
Wait, hold on.
Look, it's so unaligned. No, I'm kidding. That's originally unaligned. What?
There you go.
What? What the fuck?
I don't know.
Okay, no, take it back.
I don't know.
Leave it there.
I don't know.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Those are the evil ones.
Whatever. It's hard to tell actually. Whatever. It's okay. Let's just leave it there. Cool. Okay, so yeah. Welcome to Intro to JavaScript and jQuery. I'm Ashley.
I'm Michael.
Can you guys hear us all right? Yeah? Yeah, sort of. Okay. Feel free to grab pizza. There are lots of options, probably diminishing right now because everyone's taking them. And yeah, so a few things to get you guys started, or at least an overview of exactly what we're going to be learning. We're going to go over the intro, like general, I guess, features and attributes of JavaScript as a language. And then after that, basically, we're going to be learning how to make a simple to-do app. It's very, very straightforward, and we're going to be utilizing the jQuery library to help us out and help us interact with DOM. And so, again, as all Hackduke workshops are, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to ask each other. We have TAs. Can you guys raise your hands? All right, that's Eleanor and that's Jason. Feel free to ask them whenever you want. We'll be stopping momentarily between the slides just to kind of like answer questions, but also give you guys a chance to kind of like ask the TAs to clarify certain things if you aren't, caught up or anything like that. The TAs also feel free to stop us if you feel like too many people are kind of like aren't really getting the material or just kind of like a little bit behind. So another thing that we are trying to get set up right now, check the Facebook for the download link to the starter code. You can do that. You can feel free to do that right now. you can feel free to do that later because we aren't necessarily getting our hands wet with code just yet. Again, this is the Hack Duke from Scratch EDU series. If this is your first one, we have many, many of them. This is, I think, our 9th class. We hold a lot of introduction lessons, to anything about tech, ranging from code to design to data science, etc. Hopefully, those of you who have come to our series, yeah, I mean, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it so far. And if you do, feel free to sort of like root for us, because the more encouragement we get, the more we will do this for the rest of ever. So yeah. All right. Michael, do you want to start off with the first slide? Are we gonna start? Do you wanna? Oh, should we? We can start. Yeah. Is this what do you mean?
Wait, you're recording or whatever.
Yeah, it's recording.
Going through slides.
We're going to yeah, we're just gonna go through slides. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. All right, sweet. Yeah, so Michael's gonna talk to you a little bit about why JavaScript.
Cool. Yeah. So JavaScript, why should we use it? So it's just like any other programming language, except the thing that sort of differs or makes JavaScript different is JavaScript is the only language that's used on the web. It's the only language that your browser sort of understands. And so sort of using JavaScript allows you to make your page like more dynamic rather than just a single like HTML page and CSS that just doesn't do anything. So the great thing about JavaScript is it sort of allows you to interact with your browser's DOM. So does anyone know?
Who knows what a DOM is? Cricket. Okay. You want to explain what a DOM is?
Yeah, so the DOM is the document object model. So if you know HTML, which I hope you do, but
who knows HTML?
Cool.
Yay!
Yay! So you can just think about the DOM as just HTML. So it's just sort of how the HTML on your page is structured, like with relation to each other. We'll sort of get into it when we start coding. But yeah, you can just think about JavaScript as sort of like a way to make your websites more dynamic and interactive.
Yeah. So a quick little like example of exactly how JavaScript is like sort of implemented and or like why it's a language of the web is if you are on your computers, you can pull up Google Chrome, you can pull up Internet Explorer, you can pull up Mozilla Firefox, and if you right click and look for the inspect element, you'll be able to see just a whole bunch of stuff, right? And if you haven't ever used this before, the inspect element is a really, really great way of debugging your code, but also looking at the stuff that kind of happens on the back end, like sort of behind the curtains. And so we can definitely show an example of this. So let's say this is, Google Docs right now, and we are at the sort of like PowerPoints or presentations under Google Docs. Let's take a look at, oh crap, just kidding. Let's take a look at exactly what's going on behind the hood. So as you can see, this is all of the HTML that is rendered. Right now, what we would call this is HTML/the DOM, right? So the document object model, right?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And right here, we see this little thing called the console. And a way to prove that we weren't lying to you and that all browsers are powered by JavaScript. Michael, do you want to like type in some thing that will be able to sort of like demonstrate exactly how JavaScript like is, or just kind of like to prove the fact that JavaScript is indeed present in your browser?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, if you're following along, you can get to this console by like either hitting the console at the top or like hitting escape. So like we'll get into sort of like what this means later, but you can do like 5 + 5 and like 2. And then we should probably blow this up.
Yeah.
Everyone see that on the like pause or whatever?
You good?
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then we can like just do stuff that you can do in like any other programming language. So it's a programming language. Yeah.
So it indeed does exist. We weren't lying to you. JavaScript exists, is living inside of your browser, and you can interact with it whenever you want. And this will make a lot more sense as we move on. So let's go back to sort of exactly what is covered under the language. So the first thing that that JavaScript kind of like presents to you are primitives and arrays. And how many of you have actually taken a computer science course before? Okay, cool. And so I'm assuming the rest of you have not ever really touched sort of comp sci in any sort of way. Is that correct, sort of, maybe? Okay, cool. That's totally fine. You can still learn comp sci without actually being familiar with any of this stuff. It just takes a little bit longer to kind of explain a little bit more. So what exactly is a primitive? A primitive is basically like the very, very general base case of how a value is expressed, right? And so you have, JavaScript has many different sort of primitives, right? So it can store numbers. It can store strings. Does anyone know what a string is? Everyone knows what a string is. A string is pretty much just kind of like, in quotes, an array of basically characters, right? So if it's like, quote, B-O-B, end quote, that is a string. For all of those who have never taken comp sci before, it's a fairly simple concept. A Boolean, who knows what the two values of a Boolean are? 0 and 1, or true and false, or something of that sort, right? Cool. And then after that, you have the whole sort of like, I have no idea what the heck you just gave me, the sort of undefined thing, or the undefined, I guess it's a value, or is it just kind of like, it's a general sort of value to kind of distinguish between something that obviously has been like defined or assigned to something before, or something that has never been sort of instantiated or has been assigned a value.
There's also null, which is confusing.
Yeah. So we're gonna throw a few things out there that may be like, JavaScript has its kind of quirks. There's also the null, which is basically it is a different entity than undefined. We'll just put it at that. But it is also sort of like its definition is still sort of the same in terms of it's just not actually sort of it's not a number, it's not a string, it's not a Boolean. It is a different sort of entity. Yeah. So let's move on.
Cool. Yeah, so arrays. So arrays, you can sort of think about it as like, you have a lot of things and you want to put them into a single value, but you still want to have all the things. A more concise way is to think about it as a list. I should have said that first. So it's like, so you have this example of like, say you have like a list of names like Bob, Susie, and Sammy. So like, what you could do is you could like have 3 variables that like person 1 equals Bob, person 2 equals Susie, person 3 equals Sammy, but that doesn't really like generalize out to like having like 1,000 people or whatever. So like an array allows you to sort of like dynamically have a uncertain amount of things inside of a variable.
It's basically, say if you have an address book and you have a lot of people within that address book, every sort of instance of address within that address book is a instance like Bob, like Susie, like Sammy within that array, and the entire, what you call the address book, is the array, right? So hopefully, does that all make sense to people who have never taken comp sci before? Yeah? Sweet. All right, cool. So more about arrays. Arrays kind of exist not only to just kind of like contain information, and they also exist to return information to you in a very simple way. And so arrays have certain methods and properties. So if you put things into an array, you can actually access them by certain sort of like certain methods, and also access certain properties of that array using certain sort of attributes, right? First thing I want to go over is indexing. So remember that people array? So we have defined the people array to be Bob, Susie, and Sammy, right? the way that you want to pull out the first sort of person in that people array is is defined as people. You have the square brackets 0, right? And so a lot of you count from 1. In computer science, we start from 0. I don't know. Don't ask me. Like, people think it's better. We're just kind of snobs, I guess. But so people 0 means that it's going to return the first person in that array. A slice, example, people.slice would actually separate each and every individual within that people array. So if you take a look at this again, it will separate Bob from Susie from Sammy out into separate individual entities. Length, so if you do people.length, if you take the array and you call the length attribute on it, it will return 3 because there are 3 people in the array. And the final thing is join. So people.join will be able to take in a certain string. And so this is a method that if you give it an input, if a string input, so let's say the comma, it will be able to take all the instances of this array and then concatenate them or bind them together with that string that you've put in. So for example, if we use the comma, then it's going to return Bob, comma, Susie, comma, Sammy. If we put in YOLO, it would return Bob, YOLO, Susie, YOLO, Sammy. And that is how joining works.
Sure. Just show it like in the console.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So let's take advantage of the fact that JavaScript lives in our console.
Just go to percent.
Go to percent?
You can do it with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So let's kind of give a little bit of a demonstration. Go back to the fact that JavaScript lives in your browser. We can actually prove a lot of this to you by just.
All right. We'll assume
Okay, you gotta pull that down. Dude, it's all the way over here.
Oh, oops.
Yeah.
My left and right are mixed up.
Well, okay. Hopefully
Right.
that works for you.
Sorry. All right. So
Hopefully
if we have like that same array of people, like Bobby, Susie, Sammy, then if we look at people, then we can see we have Bobby, Susie, and Sammy.
Yep.
And so if we want to test out indexing, we can. Oh wow, that is crazy. Okay, you have a lot of windows open.
Sorry.
That is fine. So all right, so people 0 to get the first person, and so like if you can imagine, how do we get the second person? Yeah, cool. Susie, cool. Cool. All right. Yeah, people dot length. We get 3 people. And if we do slice, then we get the same thing. You give it a number, it'll give you sort of a slice of that array. You shouldn't worry about it, but just know about that. And so finally, join. You get a string with Bobby, Susie, and Sammy. Oh, it's not necessary. I just have a habit of doing it. Yeah, it's not necessary, but a lot of people like to do it. Cool.
Should we move on?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, my mouse is off.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, cool. So as you've seen before, what is the weird little like thing called var? So vars are basically shorthand for variables, and basically variables is just pretty much any sort of name that you can give to store a value, right? So you can call it people, and you can make it equivalent to an array. You can say, I don't know, like Bob or herpderp, and you can name a variable that, and you can store a value to that variable. Very, very simple concept, very, very useful in comp sci. Okay, so how many of you know for loops? Wow, there's a lot. Okay. Actually, I probably should ask how many of you don't know for loops. What a for loop is. One person? Okay, so which one of you wants to explain what a for loop is for those who have taken comp sci before, what exactly that is? Anyone brave enough to describe what a for loop is? Seriously? Really? Okay. Michael, I'm going to volunteer you. You can describe it. But I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay. So for loop just basically allows you to essentially execute some piece of code a certain number of times. So say from the example of like our list of people, say we're like writing a program that needs to keep track of like who's coming to my party or whatever. So we could like, if I know that 10 people are coming to my party, I can write a for loop that that basically loops through 10 times and then asks me like for 10 people to add to this list. Or if you can imagine, like if you're like trying to like make a web page that shows all the people that are going to your party, then you can iterate through this like array and then print them out to your screen. It's essentially a way of like going through your list or doing something n times.
Yep. So a little bit of a breakdown of exactly like what the syntax is used. I'll do it for the sake of the person who doesn't know comp sci. Really quick sort of like review. So you set, let's say you set a variable equal to I. And this I is basically what you're going to use to keep track of where exactly you are in the sort of array that you are looping through, right? And so as long as I is less than the total length of that array, then you keep on incrementing that I until you hit the length of that array. And then that means that you will have looped through that array however many times by its length, right? So specifically for JavaScript, there is a for each sort of syntax. And so the syntax looks a little bit different from what you've learned in Java or what you've learned in Python. And so the syntax is for var items in array or for var key in objects. And you'll see what the difference between arrays and objects are soon. But basically, it is the same concept. It is kind of like a shorthand. JavaScript is a little bit smarter. And it's a shorthand to be able to iterate through an array or an object. Did I cover everything?
Yeah. Just because like for loops are mainly used for that, right? So it doesn't make sense to have to like always write this like extraneous stuff. But anyway.
If statements.
Cool. So I guess we'll do this again. Who knows what an if statement is? Cool.
Yay.
All right. You want to explain it? No. Okay, cool. That's fine. Okay, so if statements sort of basically allow you to like define different parts of code that you might want to execute, but you might not want to. Wow. You might not want to execute them depending on like how you feel or how like the state of your program is like is. So like for example with this, like if you have like say like this variable this truthy is like a boolean. So so this truthy is evaluates to true, then JavaScript is going to run this method do something. Otherwise, if that truthy is true, then it's going to do another thing. And if none of those are true, then it's going to do
nothing.
What should be here.
Or nothing
yeah.
is what is defined as here. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So hopefully that all made sense. If not, ask your TAs, raise your hand.
You don't always need to specify an else if or even an else, just depending on like what your program is trying to do.
Yep. Okay, functions. All right, so the focus of function. It runs code and it has inputs and outputs. So imagine it as like a big black box and you're shoving things in it and it's going to spit something out. Our function, we're going to define our function as do something, and the way that we define a function in JavaScript is we say function, we're going to name our function do something, And in parentheses, we're going to put in all of the inputs that it's going to be taking in. Input 1, input 2, and input 3. Within these parentheses or these curly brackets or braces or whatever you want to call them, we're going to set our var output to the sum of the first, second, and third input. And then after that, we're going to return output. So for those of you who take Java, it's kind of like the same thing. You have these parameters that you take in within the parentheses, and then after that, you have a return statement that will basically spit it back out. So the interesting thing about JavaScript is that functions can be values, and certain variables can also be set as functions, which is...
So we'll get into this later with our to-do app. Yeah.
But you shall see soon. Cool. Objects.
Cool. Yeah. Objects in JavaScript are sort of a little bit different than objects you would have in like a language like Java.
Yep. So all you people who take in Java, pay attention because this is actually the important part.
Yeah. So JavaScript sort of has a notion of like classes, which is sort of like a contract that you as a programmer writes that sort of defines how each type of object is gonna be and behave. So if you have like a person object, a person has a name, person has methods that are like hello or whatever, or like say hello or something. JavaScript doesn't have, or it has like some similarities, but objects, you don't need classes to define them. So it's a little bit like loosey-goosey. I guess you can sort of think about it. So like, I guess for this example, like this is an object. So this is called an object literal. So it's called a literal because you're sort of just writing out the object.
Literally defining like what the object looks like,
yeah.
Basically.
So I guess I can just show. So if we just sort of go from this example, we can store something into this object. So if you remember sort of back to for loops, you saw the syntax for iterating through an object is like for key in object. So what this like syntax means is, so these things before colons are called keys, and these things after the colons but before the comma are the values. So you can sort of think about it as like a dictionary. Oh, it's like exactly a dictionary in Python if you know what a dictionary in Python is, or a hash map. They're like functionally the same. Yeah.
And the different types of values that the different types of things that can be a value go back to basically what we've defined as primitives, but also can be other objects and also can be other functions as well. So you can literally define A to be a function. And if you were to, I guess if we move on, like as you can see on the second bullet point, if we were to access that A, it would actually run that function. But we'll kind of give you a little bit of a sample of exactly what it looks like. Also, you are typing on top of your head.
Ooh.
Well, but yeah, just I guess type it. Yeah, there we go.
Sorry. So yeah, so I've sort of typed out this object literal, and sort of I have this key A.
Close that string. It's a sunny day. Close the string.
I have this key A, and then it has a value of 2, and then I have another key that's a string. So like Ashley, yeah, like Ashley said, like you can put strings as keys. So if you want to sort of play around with this object we've created, we can do it in sort of a number of different ways. So the way you sort of access values that are inside of your object are, you can use this sort of familiar syntax where you've got the square brackets and then like a string or like whatever you put as your key, or some like nice sugar that JavaScript has is like if your key is a string that is nice, so nice meaning doesn't have spaces or like weird characters, then you can just use this dot syntax.
Yep. So for example, that hello world key cannot be accessed in the thing.hello-world way, because JavaScript's just going to be really freaking confused.
Yeah. So I guess just to demonstrate, so we can do like object.a, or we can do like object A, and we get 2. So like 2 different ways to do the same thing. But if we, so like this is going to work because, right? But since this key isn't a nice like string, then if we like try to do this, and it's gonna like, what are you trying to do?
What are you doing to me?
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. So you can sort of, in objects, you can nest objects within objects. So we can like bird nest, like my birds names Susie, Bob. So if we want to get the names of my birds, then we can do birdnest.mybirds.names, and we can get the names of my birds. Alternatively, like you can use other like ways of accessing. Oh gosh.
Yeah, there you go.
Accessing the same thing. So yeah, that's just called access chaining. Yeah.
So what's the difference? Given the key, one of the keys is primitive, and the other one doesn't have a code. So in the slide,
Oh yeah.
A doesn't have a code,
Yeah.
and anything has a code.
Yeah. So yeah, good question. So it also goes back to what I was saying about like nice strings. So if we go back to that example, so if we tried to do that with Hello World, it would also give a syntax error. It's just with nice strings you can do that. So it's also, again, just a shorthand that JavaScript does sort of let you, so you don't have to like always type quotes.
Yep. String. Yep. It'll interpret it as a string.
Yep.
Any difference between single and double quotes?
No difference.
Hmm?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Cool.
Any other questions? You go good? Cool. Yes, maybe? Yeah.
What's the key for the example on the slide? There's an even.
Got
What's the key for that? Even.
even this.
Even
Oh.
this. Yeah. So.
Oh, this is a typo.
Oh, it's a typo.
Oops. Yeah, this is a typo. Sorry, this is a typo.
Yeah. Sorry, those brackets aren't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was a typo. Good catch. Good catch.
Paying attention. Okay. Cool. Objects.
Done.
Yeah. What's up?
So you said you can nest objects with other objects.
Yep.
If there is a nested object, can you only access it by accessing the object that holds it?
Yeah. Yeah. Alternatively, like if you like want to use it a lot, then you can just say like var names equals like bird nest dot my birds dot names, and like just do that.
Yep.
So yeah. Cool.
That's why variables are really handy, like bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Oh
See.
gosh.
Oh my god. Okay, cool. Okay, so I think these are, how many slides do we have left? Almost done. So JSON. JSON is over there. Say hi. No, just kidding. So JSON is the JavaScript object notation, and it's pretty much like really just very, very straightforward. It's a JavaScript object. So it is a key value map. And basically, it's kind of exactly what you've seen before. It's the thing one color, thing two red. They're all, I think, strings, right? Yeah, they all should be strings.
Strings, yeah.
Fairly, yeah. They all should be strings, and we have 2 things that are going to be allowing us to kind of read or work with the JSON objects. One of them is called JSON parse, and the other one is called JSON stringify. And basically, JSON parse is the JSON object notation can be written in one entire long string. So literally, you say start quote, curly brackets, thing one, colon, blah, 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 and then end quote, right? So that is one string, and it's not exactly a JSON object yet. So if you do JSON parse on that string, you'll be able to turn that into an actual object to work with. Then you're accessing a variable. So if you did like, let's say, object.thing1, you'll be able to get color red or something like that. JSON stringify is exactly the opposite way, so vice versa. If you have an actual JSON object and you want to turn it into a string for some sort of processing in your server or something like that, you can do JSON stringify and it will turn everything into a quote string, and everything else in between is going to be your object. Why is this important? It's because whenever you're working with APIs, has anyone heard of what an API is? Sort of? Yes, no, maybe. Okay. APIs are basically endpoints, basically routes. Or let's say if you access the Google API URL, it will be able to return you specific information that Google can return. So it's basically kind of a way for a company or a service to give back to you data. And how do they give back to their data? How is it formatted? It is formatted in JSON. And so that's exactly how different things like, Facebook works with its own servers, but it's also a way for you to be able to connect to Facebook and get information from Facebook using that API. It's an interface between services that are provided by companies, basically. Did I get everything?
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to say one quick thing.
Yep.
JSON actually, annoyingly enough, is a little bit different than how JavaScript internally represents its objects. There actually have to be double quotes around each of the keys.
Yeah, that's true.
Because someone decided at the RFC board meeting that they needed to do that. So.
Dog factory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what's really annoying and what's wasted me a lot of hours or like minutes, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. Anyways, so you can't have
non-disclosed amount of time.
you can't have trailing commas so like for example, like with an object you can do like A2, B3, and then like have a comma, and that's it. Oh, maybe not. Oh no, what's wrong with this? What's this?
I have no idea. Could you just find it as a thing? Weird. Balls JavaScript.
Keyboard. Okay,
There you go.
weird. Weird
Also
JavaScript
weird thing with
So
JavaScript.
yeah, so like you can add a trailing comma and it won't complain. It'll give you the same thing, but JSON doesn't let you do that. Just keep that in mind. It'll give you like non-descriptive errors, and then
you just like won't know what's going on, and then after that you like pull out your hair, and then next thing you know you're bald, and you're like crap. Just wasted a lot of time.
So just to demonstrate it, so we've got this object A that I just created, right? So we can sort of do this. So we've got an object, a JavaScript object, and then now we want to turn it into a JSON string. So we can do JSON.stringify A, and then cool, we've got like a nice like string representation of our JavaScript object. So as you can notice, like Jason, the person said, it's wrapped this this key in a double quoted string, and then there's no trailing comma. So what we can do if we want to like actually like sort of like make this alive again, we can use JSON.parse. So if we sort of save that to a variable, JSON string, then we can see that JSON string has a string in it, and so we can do JSON.parse JSON string, and we get our object, and so we can like do fancy things on it like that. Cool.
Sweet.
Questions?
Questions? Comments? Compliments? Shade? No? Okay.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We're done. Yay! Okay, boring part's over. Let's get off to the actual part where you actually make stuff. Yay. Cool. So, yes, we should introduce jQuery.
Cool. Yeah.
So-
So does anyone who knows what jQuery is? Show of hands.
Does anyone
Yeah.
like who like okay, instead of who knows, but just kind of like, has anyone heard like what it is? Or like have heard of the name jQuery? No? Yes? Sort of? Okay.
So jQuery is a cross-platform JavaScript library designed to simplify the client-side scripting of HTML. In other words, it sort of like makes your life easier when you're trying to like write apps in the browser. And so basically, if you can sort of just, what we do tonight, we're going to use jQuery, but everything you do, or we do here, you can do without jQuery, but you're probably going to type a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work nicely across browsers.
Yep. So jQuery is kind of like a library that saves a lot of time, which is why we want to introduce it now rather than doing the good old JavaScript way. And yeah, we'll show you basically how JavaScript interacts with HTML very, 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 very shortly. And by shortly, I mean now. Cool. So you guys want to follow along? All of you who have computers, you can pull up your computers and navigate to the Facebook page. Oh my God. Lol's usual. If you navigate to the Facebook page, you will see right here. Close my tab. I know, geez. Too popular. Ah, okay. Oh God. So yeah, so if you click on this, you'll be able to kind of get the zip file, and that is exactly what we need. So you are going to want to save it somewhere. It can be your desktop. Yes, you are on the screen. Thanks, dude. So you can save it onto your desktop, unzip it, and basically what we want to do is go onto your desktop, go to the intro.html thing. Wow, Michael. Ha, you didn't pop up this time. Okay. So here we've given you a couple of files, right? So you have your index.html, your index.css, and your index.javascript. You also have your index.completed.js, and then you have your index.regular.js. If you wanted to cheat, you can go ahead and look at the index.completed.js, but let's not cheat and let's like kind of walk through this together. So yeah, let's take a look exactly what is in these different files. So you can pull up Sublime. Basically, you can go File, Open. Does everyone have Sublime? Yeah? Sort of? No? If you do not have Sublime, you can go ahead and just Google search Sublime Text 3. Really, really easy. Sublime Text 3. And you go over there, click here. If you're Windows, you can download for the Windows. Mac, you can download it for your Mac. Really, really easy to install. It shouldn't take all too long in order to actually get it together. Okay, cool. So where'd my Sublime thing go? Okay, so you want to open, go onto your desktop or wherever you saved it. You want to go into here, and Sublime allows you to open actual file systems, and so you can open folders. You can open this up, and you have Intro to JavaScript. Hooray! Cool. So what I want to show you is right here, you have a bunch of HTML. We've written all this for you. You don't have to write this out yourself. Basically what it is it is a kind of a structure or a little like frame of the our to-do list app. And then what it is right here, and this is something that I've learned throughout time. Better touch tool, I can't see anything. There you go. Oh God. Oh God, stay in there. God damn it. Okay. Boop. Okay, there you go. One thing that'll save you a lot of time is when you're importing your script files, and you're basically importing your script tags, you need to include jQuery before you actually use it. This is something that you can't really find on Stack Overflow or something like, or it's just like really, really difficult to figure out exactly what's wrong with your app. And I've struggled with this personally a lot. Probably wasted like around a week. So hint, hint. always include jQuery before you include any of your other JavaScript file. It will save you a lot of time. If you don't, everything will break, and then you will suffer and cry in despair of why exactly your thing doesn't work. For people who know what I'm talking about, pity me. Anyways, so yes. So the script right here is basically defining the source, which is a link to JavaScript, and it's going to basically it is there to be able to pull the jQuery library and actually use it for your app. And then after that, you're going to be importing your little index.js file, which currently has nothing in it right now, or not really nothing, but just kind of like there's some things in there. We set it up for you so that we can start writing code together. Yeah. So can some people tell me exactly what you see right now, or what are the things that we went over that you can identify from our PowerPoint slides? You're like, they should be fairly obvious because it's literally like the function, yeah. And we have vars, right? Variables. We have empty strings. Yeah, we have the for loop. And we have if statements, right? Yeah, what's up? Good question. Yeah, good question. All right, so what the heck is the $? What does it do? Why is it there? We've never really introduced it before, so like why, what is it doing there? The $? Is a reference to jQuery. That is exactly how jQuery is actually referenced, and that is how you're going to be using the jQuery library in order to make your lives a lot easier. So whenever you're calling jQuery, you use the $, and then you use the parentheses around it. So a way that you would be writing it is you have the $, and then you have the parentheses, and then you have some sort of thing inside your parentheses. Blah blah blah. You can have a string. You can have and then if this is a valid jQuery item, then you can actually do methods off of that object.
So the $, really is just a variable. Like
Yep.
in our examples before, you can substitute a $, in any of the variable names. So JavaScript lets you use weird characters as variable names, unlike keys. So yeah, like you could do that. A common thing to do is to like just like say var jQuery equals $, just so like you don't get like conflicts with other libraries, but we won't do that for now.
I think it's like jQuery or jQuery dot or like jQuery something like that. Insert, and you can just like do params.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever, right? It's basically the same as $ params. Basically, it's a way for you to kind of like access the jQuery library. It's the first access point, and as all sort of like as we've defined before, it is a variable, but variables can also be defined as functions as well, right? And so basically what it is that you're calling the $ variable, and then you're putting in some parameters that will be able to be passed into the function, and then the function will like spit out some sort of workable jQuery object for you to continue working off of. And this will kind of like come together as we sort of go on. Yeah, good. Okay. So, so do you want to like explain the to-do HTML template or the render? Okay.
Yeah. So just to sort of like explain what we have like written here, it's sort of just like a lot of like schlep that we don't want you guys to type out. So if you can sort of imagine like what a cool like dynamic HTML5 JavaScript thing is going to do. So like what our to-do list is basically going to do is it's going to like we're going to type stuff, and then when we hit enter,
this one actually works. This is a working demo.
Cool. This is a working demo. I didn't know that. So like okay, so it's going to do exactly what it's doing, so I don't have to describe it. So we can add things, we can complete things.
Yep. That's it.
Okay. Yeah, so we can just for this demo we're just going to add things and complete things. Even though there's an X here.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about it. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so what this basically does is if you call this method with an array of like all your to-do items, then it's just gonna loop through them using our nifty for loop and sort of call this. So yeah. So we sort of initialize this this variable
Called this.
here. Yeah, lis. It's just like short for list items, plural.
So it's basically the li tag, and it's a plural of the li tag for naming convention.
Yeah. And so it's just gonna keep calling this method for each to-do item, and then it's gonna return this like string representing HTML.
Yep.
And so yeah, we didn't want you to type all this stuff out, so we gave it to you. Happy birthday. Cool. Yeah. And so yeah, one thing to note, just if you're like familiar with like a more strict language like Java or like C or C++, then like what is to-do items array, right? And so that's one of like sort of the criticisms of like languages like JavaScript, that so you have to like sort of like look at the code that's here to figure out what it's gonna do. Anyways, cool. So should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay. Cool.
So let's, hold on. Let me pull up the index.html, reveal that in Finder, double click on this. Right now, what this does, and if you guys all have noticed, is that if you type in stuff, nothing happens. And this is basically the starting point of where we want to work off of. So what are the things that we have to sort of like implement here? Like what exactly are the user interfaces that we want to see when we are using a to-do app? What's the first thing that we have to do that to make this a little bit more functional, per se? Anyone?
If you answer, you get a free pizza crust.
Yeah. So we want to add one of the things right here, right? But exactly how are we going to do it, right? Like, there's not necessarily like any sort of like button or anything like that. But intuitively, if we wanted to add an item, we want to actually hit the enter key, right? And upon hitting the enter key, the this whatever like gibberish that we've actually like typed out should be added to our list of to-dos, right? Does that make sense to everyone? Is that what we're trying to get at? Does everyone agree? Is that's exactly how we use to-do lists? Yes. So how exactly? So basically, the first thing we want to be able to do is respond to that enter key, right? And so that's kind of like a weird place to start. It's like, okay, well, like I know JavaScript, right? I know for loops, I know if statements, I know you know, things like that. But how exactly are we supposed to like get like, or how are we supposed to know when the user actually hits the enter key? And then after that, how are we supposed to get that value? And then like, and furthermore, how do we put it in here, right? So this is where JavaScript and jQuery come in handy, because it actually allows you to figure out exactly when someone hits the enter key, when someone clicks on the mouse, when someone clicks a button or something like that. Michael, do you want to show like the first sort of steps of how to do that?
Sure.
So back into the index.js.
No. Okay. Oh well.
Index.js.
That's too bad. Oh, it is able. You don't have caps. Okay, that's fine. Okay, cool. Yeah. So okay, cool. So you can see here that we've got this like array already like predefined. So, oh wow. Sorry. Yeah. So this is wow. Okay. This is where we're gonna like actually store our actual like to-do items. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna represent them as an object that has a an attribute called attributes.
Oh God, we didn't. What are our attributes? Oh my gosh! Oh, there it is. That's where you got it.
Wow. Oops. Sorry.
Awkward. No. Is that actually responding to it?
It's completed.
Oh no.
Oh,
There
it's
you go.
it's
Okay,
doing
cool.
this thing. How do I? Should probably like.
What?
It's like the stream is like it's our face now.
Is that our face?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh no! Okay, screen share. Share. Okay,
Okay,
sweet.
cool.
Back to
Sweet. Sorry about that.
Inception. All right, neat.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Right. Okay, sorry about that. So the format is name and then like a string, and then or like a string representing like do homework after JS class, and then like a key called completed with that's a Boolean that will represent like whether we've completed it or not, and so we'll like initialize that as false. So we can just for now like say like first to do equals that, and then we can do to do items dot push first to do. So this push method on this to do items array just adds it to the array. Cool.
Yep.
So we'll have that predefined. Okay, cool. Should I do like selectors now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Does anyone know what a selector is? So a selector's or like so like in the context of like CSS or jQuery, does anyone know what it is?
Selectors.
Selector.
Who has gone to the HTML and CSS class? Shame on you if you have and like don't know what it. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Yeah. So a selector just basically allows you to sort of like traverse your HTML tree and then select a specific item or specific items. So if you can just sort of imagine what we want to do here is we want to select our form and then sort of listen for or select this like
This
field.
input
Yeah,
name,
this like
right?
input. So this is under the hood, even though it like looks really nice. It's just an input field.
Yep.
And so what we want to do is we want to like tell jQuery to like listen on this like input field and listen for like whether the user has
pressed enter on it or not.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So if you're familiar with CSS, jQuery selectors work in I think exactly the same way.
Yep. So for example, if there's a class called item on your let's say paragraph tag in your HTML, the way that you would be able to identify and select that item class would be dot item. For you to select regular IDs, you'd be hashtag whatever the ID is. If you wanted to select an element in general, that would actually select all of the elements under that name. You can type in some sort of like that element name, and it will be able to select all of the elements under that name.
Okay, so we'll just like play around in the console real quick just to like show. So the console is really great. It's a really great debugging tool in that anything you type into like Sublime or whatever editor you're using, you can like pretty much just type into here and then it'll execute. So like we've got jQuery, and then we've got like all the jQuery methods, and like we can do like all the stuff that we were doing before. So that's like really cool. So let's just like play around in the console really quick to see if we can like select this thing. So like let's inspect this element. So what we want to do first is we want to like
be able to get that input, right?
Yeah.
And then listen to it.
So if you see here, we've like went ahead and like added this nifty ID on this input. So our lives are a lot easier than if there wasn't an input. So what we can do is like, so yeah, so the $sign is like, if this like syntax looks weird, I'll explain it. So what you do is, like she said, is you just
you want to be able to select the input based off of its ID, right? And so what Michael's doing right now is he's taking that, putting that input ID selector, turning it into a string by encapsulating it with the little quotes, and then after that putting it as a parameter into jQuery. And what jQuery is going to do is going to traverse the DOM, which is the HTML, and it's going to spit back out what it found, right? And so one of the things about jQuery is that like if you were able to put something that is like incredibly vague, for example, if you were to do $quote P or something like that, or maybe $quote LI div or something like that. We don't have any divs. What? No, we don't have any divs.
Such
Well,
HTML5. So yeah, okay. So we've got a lot of
we got a lot of
yeah, we have a lot of inputs. So what we can do is
yeah,
like,
let's say we're trying to actually look for the input. If we put in the input, they're actually going to return to us 2 values in that array, right? Oh no, it's no parentheses. There we go. It's gonna return 2. Mostly because we have inputs over here and then another input in there. We're not specific enough, right? So we're not exactly selecting the one that we want, which is right here.
so yeah, we could have just like done this, like new to do, and we would have gotten the same result.
Yep.
And
yeah, so now that we've gotten our input, we can do things with it, right? So
yeah. So yeah. So like jQuery like gives you a lot of like really nice methods. So what it's doing, so what it does in Chrome is it sort of, oh yeah, Chrome does this like really cool thing where like you can hover over it and it like shows you whether you're right or not, like whether your selector is right or not. So like you can see like this checkbox corresponds to this thing. So side note. So yeah, so like even though it doesn't look like it here, it's returning a sort of a special jQuery object that sort of looks like an array of like regular DOM elements, but it's like souped up, so it's got cool methods on it. So what we can do on this is we can like query like what value is like actually inside of this. So nice. So we know that is in here, right? So yeah, so let's like leverage that to like actually create a new to do. So if you go back into our text editor, so we know now we can like populate this. So
Yep.
Does anyone remember what this is? What goes inside of here?
Anyone? Yep. New to do.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
So yeah, so okay, cool. So like, how do we get like the name of our to do from our input field?
Exactly what we've typed in, which is
yeah, cool. All right, cool. So we've got the value here, but we're not doing anything with it.
And what we actually want to do is we want to add it to our list of to-dos, right? Because what happens when we add our list of to-do items is that if there's anything in our to-do items array, it will actually be rendered and added to basically our screen, right? And we wrote really nice helper functions to basically help you out and actually add it to the HTML. But basically what we want to do is upon selecting that input field and figuring out what the value is, we want to be able to append it to our to-do list item.
So like to do items dot push, and we'll just use the literal notation. So we can do input field dot val, and then like completed
Dot is false.
False.
Great.
So yeah, we can get rid of this line. All right, cool. All right, let's like see what this does. Oh,
It formats it for you.
that's cool.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so let's like see what this does. Oh man, all right. So it doesn't work.
It still doesn't work, right? Like we really haven't done anything. All we've done is pushed it to the array, right? But we haven't actually told the HTML to render it or to add it to like the actual sort of like the DOM, right?
Or even like before that, like so okay, so like jQuery has like a special function that like so what this means is it's going to execute this function once the page finishes loading. But anyways, don't worry about that. Just know that it's going to execute once the page loads. So like if it's gonna run this like code like just immediately, then like it's already like completed like before we have even done anything. So like if we just look at so I'm gonna do like a fancy trick just to illustrate, but if we just look at like, oh, better yet. So yeah, cool. Another method or function you should know is console.log. So console.log is basically like what allows you to print to the console. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna console log to do items.
It's kind of like printf or
Yeah, except really souped up because Chrome will print it out nicely, as you'll see. So cool. Like, so all right. So we've got two objects in this array, and we got like this first one, which is like completed and do homework after JavaScript class, and then we've got our next one, which is like empty. So this is because it just like ran immediately, and like we didn't have a chance to actually like
do anything.
Yeah, exactly. So we can solve this by adding a handler onto this input field. And so to do that, we can just push this code to the side for now, since we might reuse it, I think. So the method on the
Items? I thought it was input field.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Typo.
Yeah. So basically what Michael's doing here right now is he's binding a handler, which is like a very foreign term for those of you who haven't really worked with jQuery yet. He's binding a handler to the input field. And a handler is something that is specific to jQuery, where it is quite, it's going to be interpreted, and you're able to interpret it quite literally, right? So the input field is our little jQuery object, right? And the key press is basically on some sort of key press, right? Any key right now, right? It's defined as any key right now. So you can like click the mouse or like click the Y key or click the F key or click whatever key on your keyboard. And upon pressing that key, it's going to run a function, right? And so we want to really define exactly which key we want to press in order to actually run this function, right? And obviously for a lot of people, when they're actually typing things to the to-do list, the most obvious thing key that they're going to press, or the most sort of like intuitive thing that they're going to press, is the enter key, right? And so we want to be able to bind the input field, a key press to the input field, and actually execute something off of it. And so
yeah,
we will show you how to do that.
Yeah. So also another side note, you can see I passed in this like function definition into an argument into this key press method. So if you remember from the earlier slides, when we said that functions can be values, this is really
Exactly
what that,
we're talking
yeah,
about.
exactly what that means. So what we're essentially doing is passing this like actual function thing into this method and telling this method like this is what we want to do when a key press happens.
Right.
So what we could have done is like var handler equals function, and then like do stuff, and then we could have just passed it into here. I think handler is actually a special keyword, so don't name it handler because it's highlighted blue.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't use handler. But yeah, we'll just like put it in directly because we want to. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So another note, a lot of these like event-based like, so what this function is called, it's called a callback function. Yeah, so it's sort of like, you can think about it as like, I'm giving this function my callback function, and so this function I'm calling is going to use my callback function to call back and do what I want it to do.
So basically, upon yeah. So I think what callback functions is a little bit hard to explain, mostly because it's kind of like a convoluted sort of feedback loop, right? But another attempt to try to explain this is basically like upon pressing the key press, the key press itself is an actual method. What we're trying to push into it is an actual function, and the key press can actually assist your function that you're giving it, and basically allow your function to have access to some of the things that are useful to it, right? So what exactly is useful to our function? Well, we don't really know exactly which key that the user has pressed, right? Key press is a very, very vague and arbitrary term in order to really try and digest what exactly is happening. And so in pushing our function into the key press method actually helps us out by allowing the function that we've given it access to the, and we can call this whatever we want, but access to this event object, right? So Michael has put it right there, function parentheses EV, which is the event, right? Exactly what happened. And based off of that, that is exactly what we're going to be using in order to be able to tell whether it's the colon key that we've pressed, the enter key that we've pressed, the spacebar key that we've pressed, et cetera, right? And so everything is really set up for you in this jQuery's library, which is why this is really, really helpful. And basically, we need to do a little bit of a comparison or an if statement in order to figure out exactly which key press we need to respond to.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. If it doesn't, please raise your hand, ask a TA, or ask us.
Talk about it later.
We can talk about it later.
Yeah, so, all right, just to demonstrate what this is actually doing, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like do console.log ev. And this is because I also don't know what is inside ev. So let's
find out.
Let's figure this out together. All right, cool. All right, so if you notice, we've got this thing again because I kept the code here. And so, all right, let's like actually type stuff in here. Okay, so like right away, I've typed in 3 letters. I've typed in a few letters. That's weird. And like already this we've got a bunch of things in our console.
And that's because the jQuery is actually reacting to all of the keys that you're pressing, and that's exactly what we're trying to see, right? It's exactly what we expect from jQuery. jQuery is going to be able to execute. Thanks for coming. jQuery is going to be able to execute upon each key press, right? And it's going to be printing out exactly the event that it's going to be giving you in order to help you figure out exactly which keys are pressed, right? So it's going to pass you this jQuery event object that gives you the details of exactly what happened on that event. Yeah.
So yeah, Chrome, like I said, is like really souped up because they've got cool engineers who also develop for the web. So we can like expand like what we printed out, which is just an object, a JavaScript object. So we can see what's inside of it. So we've got like alt key bubbles, like we don't care about all this. But like what we care about is this attribute called which maps to a number. So this is a special number that just like represents a specific key on your keyboard. Don't worry about it. But what we'll do now is we'll figure out what the correct number is that we need to look out for. And so to do that, we'll click back into here and then
press the enter key a whole bunch of times.
Enter. Yeah, so I pressed it once, so it's going to be the last one. So we'll look here, and we'll see that which is 13. So cool. We'll use that to our advantage. So let's go back into our text editor. And we're going to now do something special based on what which is. Does anyone know what we're going to use now? Yeah, cool, awesome.
Statement.
Yeah,
Yay.
So cool. So if EV, which is this object, yeah, this like object we're just looking at, which equals 13. So if you're familiar with like Python or like Java or like most languages, you're probably used to like a double equals. JavaScript also has a double equals, but it has a triple equals, which is like like sort of, it also enforces like types. If we have like time at the end of the talk, then I can show a cool video. Anyways, yeah, so in general, you can use triple equals, and pretty much that's what you're gonna want 99.9% of the time.
Yeah, always use triple equals in JavaScript. Double equals gives you this like loosey-goosey like things can be equal to this, like null is kind of like undefined, is kind of like false, so all of that is just going to be like one thing, or all of that's going to be, you know, equal to each other, and that's not what we want. So triple equals, basically, to put it shortly, is just to really ensure that these two objects are exactly the same. Yeah.
So yeah, just like to show real quick, like I've got this 2 in a string, and then I've got like, I'm comparing it to a 2, and it's saying they're the same thing, which like sometimes really backfires. So you don't want to do that. And so as we can see, like this triple equals just solve that.
Yeah.
So cool, we'll use triple equals. Okay, so now we can like actually use this code we wrote before to do stuff. So we'll just copy and paste that into, oops, I lost my cursor. Hope I wasn't typing anything. We'll do that and paste it. Oh, okay. I'm not used to that. Very new and scary to me. Yeah, so we want to add something to our to-do items array, right? And so similar to like outside of this like callback function, we have access to this like input field variable because of like how JavaScript works, in that it allows us to sort of keep that reference.
Yep. Has anyone heard of global variables before? Yeah? Yeah, that's exactly what we just did right here. So if you're nested in a function, if you define a variable outside, those actually act as global variables, and you can just basically kind of access it wherever. Scoping that's basically how the scoping of that works.
Cool. Yeah, so it's like exactly the same code. So let's see if it works. I think it should work, but we'll see. All right. Okay, so does it work? I don't know. We should probably like figure out if we're actually like executing this code. So let's add a console log statement. So like console log to do items, and we'll just like see what the array is when we do stuff. So like let's do SDFF. Okay, cool. Yay, we've got this like thing in our thing. So do homework. Oh, nice. We've got another thing. So cool. It's adding stuff to our array, but it's like not actually doing what we want it to do.
Right.
So it's not adding things onto our page. It's not like clearing this. So all right, let's fix that now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. All right. So what we want to do after this is that we want to actually access the list that is underneath here, which doesn't really look like much right now. But trust me, there is actually a list. Basically, underneath here we have a UL, an unordered list that basically is itemized by the ID to-do list, right? And basically, we want to add list items to that unordered list, right? And if we do add those list items to that unordered list, then we are able to basically render the new stuff that is inside of our array, right? So we want to take all the items in our array that we've just basically added all of this, like, do homework, ASDF, et cetera, to this list item, right? Does anyone know exactly how to access this using jQuery? We literally went over it, so it's kind of like a simple variation. How exactly do we access this item using jQuery? Anyone know? Yeah, right. So in order to actually get it, right, let's kind of like prove our point here. If we do # to-do list, hopefully it will return the exact to-do list, right? So same thing right here. UL to-do list, blah, 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 right? And so one of the things that we have written for our helper method that basically helps you, basically like kind of to make things easier for you, you don't have to type as much, you're welcome, is we're going to be taking advantage of the of something in jQuery called, I believe it's append, right? Yes, it is probably called append. Let us try it. So what we want to do is we want to be able to append HTML to this UL, right? And so using the, is it append? Do I use append? Okay. Yeah. So basically, when you're using this method append, we're passing it a string, and then after that, jQuery is going to be able to find the unordered list and then add whatever the heck it is to that to the contents of was it? Oh wait, no, was it text? It was text, right? Wait, hold on.
Also,
Which one? Which one? We're using text or are we using?
So yeah.
Gotcha. We're using text, but you can use append as well. Okay. Yeah. So basically, what it does is it pretty much adds something to that element, right? So if we do li omg, it's not styled at all. Yeah. It's not styled at all. But anyways, you see what happens here, right? If we're able to append this, we're actually adding the li, this li element to the ul, right? And so if we inspect element again here, it is actually within the ul. It's just exactly what we want. It's just that it's not exactly styled as we would like, right? And so basically what we want to do here is upon getting the to-do items and upon detecting, thanks for turning that, yay. Upon detecting the fact that it is actually the enter key that we've pushed, basically from here we want to be able to push everything onto it, and then after that get the actual unordered list, and then add the HTML template to the unordered list. Is that right? Yeah. Or are we under? No, hold on. We're rendering it, right? Yeah. So basically here, return lis. So we want to get var unordered list, and then so what we want to do is we want to do this, and then we want to do this. And then once we've gotten our UL, and once we indicated that we have our UL right here, we want to do ul.text, right? Are we using text? Seriously?
Yeah.
.html. Okay. There's so many weird. Okay. The reason why Michael, because there are a lot of helper methods that jQuery has provided for us. There's append, there's HTML, there's text, and there's a lot of other different ways of actually adding whatever it is that you want to whatever it is that you've selected, right? And so because of those different ways, we've had, basically set up a few helper methods to kind of like assist us in the way that we are rendering it. And so in this case, we are going to be using HTML, ul.html, lowercase HTML. And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to take advantage of our render helper function. And what our render helper function is going to take in is our to-do items array. And then after that, it's going to return the long list of HTML that will be able to help us render all of the items in between. So basically, it's an easy render, and then we're going to pass in our to-do items. Oh God. Hopefully, this will be able to run properly. Okay. Oh God. What is it doing?
Like I added the previous one.
Did you add the previous one? Oh. Hold on. So which one is? Oh, you need to get rid of the push
It's
first
not
to do, right?
name, it's text.
It's text. This is text. Thanks, dude.
Sweet.
Okay, renaming variables here.
Yeah. So sorry, rename the key to name to text if
Yeah.
you're following along.
Yep. So once you get that, let's try and re-render this again. Hopefully, there you go.
Yay.
So basically, what it did is it rendered all of that information in your HTML in your array and filled it into the unordered list, right? And so basically, from here, we're able to actually have ourselves a functioning to-do app. And then one more thing that we wanted to do is that upon clicking enter, obviously we want to make room for our next to-do item, right? So one of the ways that we can actually do that is to basically clear out the value that was originally in our input field, right? And so let's get rid of this console log because we know exactly what we have in here. We will be able to call our input field again and call our value to that input field. And then after that, just set it equal to empty string. Do an argument. Oh, empty string, right? Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what we're doing here is if we pass in an empty string into the input field value, we will be able to clear out all of the things that were originally written inside, right? Because originally the input field.value was going to be able to return whatever the value that we've written inside, right? If we are actually giving it a parameter, for example, a empty string, it actually realizes that, oh, hey, like I've got an empty string, therefore I need to take that value and I need to basically clear out the entire thing.
Yep.
So let's go back in here. And hopefully this will be able to do exactly what we want it to. So if we're writing here, something in here, it will basically clear out everything else. And if we continue going off, it will add accordingly. And obviously, you don't really want the do homework after JS class to be here because that's kind of silly. So instead of doing that, we can just delete this these things. And then if we check this again, it shouldn't add the do homework after JS class. It should work as a functional to-do list should. Does that make sense for everyone? Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Confused about JavaScript because it's a little funky? No? All right, cool. Well, that's our class. That is Intro to JavaScript. If you want to learn more about exactly how to use JavaScript further, if you need help or assistance in terms of your projects, feel free to ask us. Feel free to ask our TAs. Feel free to hit us up on Facebook so that you can basically code a little bit more with JavaScript and learn exactly how to make really awesome websites with it. There is JavaScript, basically the world of front-end web development is a huge and expansive subject, and a lot of the cool, crazy things that you've seen on the web is all developed with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So we've really just scratched the surface. We've given you a really, hopefully a comprehensive introduction to the language and how is it to build your own projects. And yeah, so we hope you had a good time. Hope you learned something. Hit us up if you have any questions.
Plugging the Chronicle. So there's this swanky organization on campus called the Chronicle. It's the student newspaper. I'm part of the development team. We do a lot of cool JavaScript stuff. So if you're interested in JavaScript, either talk to me or go to cronline.dukechronicle.com.
Yep, check it out.
And like drop your email.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Oh my god.
Okay, good session, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
Okay, so real talk, should I get a 15 or 13 inch?
15.
Is this yours, Michael? What do you use? You use the Lenovo,
This
right?
is mine.
13?
And he uses a 13.
Yeah, I put it in my bag.
Do you have a Retina?
Yeah.
Let me check it out.
Literally the same.
Yeah, but you get like twice the processing
He does, or I do.
on a quad core.
Oh.
Oh, I mean, you can get an i7. This is also
but
quad core.
feels so nice. This is not quad core.
You can get it, or it is. It's an i5. i5 is a quad core.
No, it's a dual core.
Oh, it
You
is.
can't fit a quad core. Well, you can, but like it doesn't have enough space for like the. Maybe you can spec it up. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Also, you can put an i7 inside of it. Yeah,
No
if you-
problem.
But the benchmark is minimal compared to getting a quad core.
i5 is quad core.
There's dual core i5s and there's quad core i5s.
Which one is?
Oh, so I'm pretty sure mine is. Or I don't know. I have no idea.
I can compare this.
Oh.
Can I compare this?
It's actually
Yeah.
no code online.
Oh yeah. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's on the same.
It's on the same.
No, you can.
yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yep,
here.
it's in the zip file. Yep,
You're alive.
I am alive. I know. I've survived all my interviews.
Oh, I was more referring to not drinking yourself to death after the
Drinking?
championship.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh my gosh. The alumni party that I was at had Blue Label. and I
Yeah,
was
it's like it's really no point to get the air if you're like looking for performance.
yeah.
Nice course.
Actually, the
Thank you.
benchmark is about the
Did
same
you learn
for every
something? Hopefully it was helpful.
Yeah, I did. I like knew a very small smattering of JavaScript.
I only have 4 gigs of RAM. It's the
Kind
issue.
of close to like how I want to work.
Yeah.
Just the RAM.
Yeah, you can upgrade. I forgot
HTML stuff
to
before
upgrade. Oh, I think I do have 8
Yeah, it just added all of that stuff. So if you take a look at that
I
code, you'll
wouldn't
figure out
upgrade if I had
exactly
8
like
gigs
what
of RAM, though.
jQuery methods that were used to kind
I
of
don't
like
know.
make
What do you
that
think?
happen.
I have 4
Um,
gigs.
know
I
how to
think.
do the
You never
layout
feel like it's
of
too
those
slow compared to the 15?
Oh, so that was just kind
Well,
of
you
like
don't run
all
like Xcode, do you?
we
Like,
is long string based
You
HTML.
do? Like
So if you
because,
just go
like, I feel
like
like it compiles
so
so much
as I showed
faster.
before, if you do
Oh,
like
15.
jQuery object dot
I don't do a
append
lot of
and
iOS
if you
over.
like
So-
literally write in an HTML string, it will
Maybe
actually
I work as
append in HTML like node indent.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Bye.
Oh, I
Thanks.
mean like
Plus, actually, I'm sure you did the CSS, so the CSS said exactly where it was
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
okay, gotcha.
Yep, yep.
Will you post the presentation stuff?
Yeah, we'll post the code is here. We'll post the presentation soon. Yeah. Oh, we should probably stop the. Oh, you did. Okay, cool.